The draft is over, the offseason is over, the NBA is back, and the season is underway. However, there are still valuable NBA players remaining in free agency, and in today's video, we're going to highlight the best remaining NBA free agents. But before we get into it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, follow the Twitter. Now onto the video. Let's start with Malik Beasley, who is by far the best remaining free agent. He had a breakout season for Detroit last year, averaging 16 points per game, shot nearly 42% from three, and was a runner-up for the Sixth Man of the Year award. Beasley's scoring and floor spacing was essential to the Pistons' turnaround last year. They went from a 14-win team to a 44-win team, given not all of that was due to Malik Beasley, but he did play a big role in that team's success. Reportedly, the Pistons had a 3-year, $42 million contract on the table for Malik Beasley. Unfortunately, just days after free agency began, it would break that Malik Beasley was involved in a federal gambling investigation. As a result of this news, Detroit pulled their contract offer, and so did the other interested NBA teams. These teams would go in other directions and spend their money elsewhere, leaving Malik Beasley still a free agent weeks into the NBA season. When at the opening of free agency, he was projected to sign a big multi-year contract. Now, Malik Beasley was cleared by his attorneys of this federal investigation, so for now it looks like he is completely innocent and just got one of the biggest opportunities of his life stripped from him, which is really unfortunate, and I expect so many competitive teams out there to be interested in Malik Beasley. My prediction is he will find his way back to Detroit. This would be best for both parties, as Malik is a great fit in the backcourt next to Cade Cunningham, and the Pistons had one of their better seasons in the last 10 years with Malik on the team. Now, there had been rumors about the Knicks and the Cavaliers and other teams being interested in Malik, which I can 100% see being truthful. His best skill set is just making the open three-point shot, and that's one thing that so many teams are desperately seeking, is a knockdown three-point shooter. Malik would be a great fit on pretty much any team with an established point guard. I just hope the right situation finds him and he's able to produce the way he did last year, maybe even better, and get the contract that he really did deserve in 2026. Charles Bassey, a former San Antonio Spur and Atlanta Hawk. This guy is 6'11" with a solid frame, long wingspan, is a good rebounder. At 25 years old, Charles Bassey finds himself as an unsigned NBA free agent. This is likely due to some injuries he's faced in his young NBA career. He has suffered multiple left leg injuries, including a torn ACL in December 2023. These injuries have impacted his availability and have put a halt on his NBA career. Being a younger player in your early 20s, obviously being out for extended periods of time can hamper your potential. Recovering from injuries gives you less time to be working on your game or playing in the G League, and that seems to have played a role in Charles Bassey's career so far. He is a very limited player offensively. Outside of the paint and some simple finishes on the glass, his offensive game is quite undeveloped. He's not yet a consistent scorer or threat beyond just catching lobs. However, he does bring a level of hustle and energy coming off the bench, going after those rebounds, getting second chance points for his team. I think Charles Bassey does have the talent to find his way on an NBA roster again. He just needs to stay healthy and needs to refine his game, whether that's working in the G League or playing overseas for a bit of time. Another younger player that recently just got waived by their team is KJ Martin, previously of the Utah Jazz. KJ had a quite underwhelming stint with Utah. This was a rebuilding team that was going to give him more opportunity than he's used to seeing in his career. He did not play too well for the team, wasn't a great fit in those lineups with Lauri Markkanen, given KJ is a forward that can't shoot the ball or play above average defense, and when you surround him with other players on a rebuilding team that also don't have those traits, it's gonna look a bit ugly, which is what happened there. Although throughout his career, KJ has played for 4 different NBA teams. His first 3 years in Houston, he looked like a reliable three-point shooter with some elite jump out of the gym ability. He was finishing crazy plays. However, his game really never expanded from that point. You could argue he regressed athletically, which is why KJ is now an unsigned free agent. However, I do believe he is one of the better players in this free agency bunch. At just 24 years old, I'm sure there's still a bit of upside to KJ's game, and I'm sure he still has the ability to be a 12th, 13th man in an NBA rotation. As long as he's on the floor with good three-point shooters, he can make do just by cutting to the basket, catching easy lobs, and getting out in transition. I think we'll eventually see KJ Martin find his way back into the NBA. However, I cannot say that with the same conviction for Bol Bol, who himself is only 25 years old and hasn't landed a new NBA contract after playing in Phoenix for the last 2 years. In 2 years in Phoenix, Bol Bol played 79 games and played some of the most efficient basketball of his career in 20 2024, shooting 42% from 3. However, the development of his all-around game really never came to fruition. The defense was never there outside of the ability to block shots, being 7'3". He really never had good defensive instincts, never found good positioning on the floor, and always took lazy and bad shots. Bol Bol played for 3 NBA teams and never found himself in an established role in an NBA offense because of his bad shot diet and his overall lack of basketball IQ. I could see Bol Bol getting an opportunity for a team that could use some size. However, it's not a guarantee, and he seems to be more excited going on tour with Playboy Cardi than playing NBA games. Now, Brandon Boston Jr., a 23-year-old who played 42 games in New Orleans last year, averaged 11 points per game, shot 35% from 3, did not receive a contract offer in free agency, which I didn't see coming. Brandon Boston got a relatively heavy amount of minutes for the Pelicans last year. They are a team that dealt with multiple injuries to their star players. They were rolling out different starting lineups, it felt like, every night, and Brandon Boston took advantage of that new role. Just last November, Brandon Boston was averaging 13 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals a night. He looked like he may have carved out a rotation spot in the NBA. However, clearly the Pelicans did not agree. Brandon Boston was not retained, and that was likely because of the glaring weaknesses in his game. He got tunnel vision on the floor at times. He was a bit turnover prone, especially when given a heavy hand in the offense, and was an overall inefficient player, shooting 41% from the field that year. But I saw flashes of legitimacy from Brandon Boston, and I would expect him to find his way back into the NBA, being only 23 years old. If he just works on his defensive game as a 6'6" shooting guard, I could definitely see a team out there taking a chance on Brandon Boston. Now, for a true NBA veteran, Spencer Dinwiddie, who was just recently waived by the Charlotte Hornets after signing a deal with them in the offseason. In a low-key surprising move, I expected the Hornets to retain him, but clearly they had other plans, which leaves me questioning why Spencer Dinwiddie signed with the Hornets in the first place. Unless Spencer got no offers from any other NBA team, which could have happened given last season for the Dallas Mavericks, he was very up and down shooting the ball, and over the last 3 years, his offensive game as a whole has been on a downward trajectory. At 32 years old, Spencer Dinwiddie's best basketball has already left him. However, I don't think we've seen the last of him in the NBA. He is still a serviceable backup point guard that you can feel comfortable with giving 15 to 20 minutes in a night. He's certainly not the guy he was in Brooklyn in 2019, but he's definitely still NBA caliber. Another veteran point guard waived, Cameron Payne, who signed with the Indiana Pacers this offseason, was let go just 9 days after signing with the team and has not been picked up by anyone else since. Cameron Payne last season as the backup to Jalen Brunson in New York averaged 7 points per game and shot 36% from 3. He's definitely not the ideal backup point guard for a postseason threat team. However, he can still give you 10 to 15 minutes at 31 years old, and every year he's always due for a random big time scoring game, which is always something to look forward to with Cameron Payne. But somehow he's made it this far into the season without getting a contract offer, which I do expect to change soon. Funny enough, DeLon Wright, another NBA veteran point guard who was released by the Indiana Pacers just a few weeks ago alongside Cameron Payne, also played last year for the New York Knicks alongside Cameron Payne. These two have been oddly linked for the last year, but anyway, DeLon Wright is now 33 years of age, but he is still capable of giving a team 10 to 15 minutes of steady point guard play. He's still a relatively average three-point shooter and a solid perimeter defender, but he has not been signed yet, and I don't know if I expect him to, given the fact that he's entering his mid-30s, and he wasn't all too great last year, despite having a few decent games. I figured it was necessary to put Ben Simmons in the video, given he's probably the most controversial free agent remaining. This guy has a lot of haters, and he also has a few blind supporters who think he's just one good team fit away from bouncing back to who he was in 2019. That's not happening. I unfortunately don't think Ben Simmons will ever be an all-star again. However, I do think he is capable of making an NBA roster. He is still a very versatile defender, and he showed that in his short stint with the LA Clippers. However, offensively, he is a black hole if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He will clog up the paint, he cannot shoot, which really is the biggest reason why he is still a free agent. He is scared to shoot the ball. I truly don't know if Ben Simmons will get the opportunity to rewrite his career or ever sign a contract again, but I don't think it's the most outlandish idea for a team to sign Ben Simmons if he is fully healthy. He does still provide value in some areas, but unfortunately, his weaknesses offensively are just a bit too much to hide. There is a guy currently getting buzz about being linked to the Sacramento Kings, and that is Precious Achiuwa. Precious signed with the Miami Heat in free agency agency, however, he was waived shortly after. And with the Sacramento Kings desperately needing front court depth, it looks like they're going to sign Precious Achiuwa, which I think would be a great fit for them, would help them tremendously. However, this is not official. This is just a report, and he could sign with literally any other team. But I do like the value that Precious could bring to the Kings and really any other NBA team. He's an athletic, high-energy forward who's versatile on both sides of the floor, and defensively, he's very switchable. He's a guy who can guard multiple positions, protect the rim, and rebound. While he's certainly not a complete product of a player, especially offensively with a three-point shot last season in 57 games for the Knicks, he shot only 27% from three, and the high 20s from three is really a career trend for Precious, which is the biggest factor phasing him out of the current NBA. Whether it's with Sacramento or really any other NBA team, I expect Precious to be one of the first free agents on this video to be signed. He's only 26, and while yes, he is a work in progress as a player, he still can provide impact on both sides of the floor. Now, the final player we'll discuss today, Cody Martin, who was waived by the Phoenix Suns in June, now in November, and he has still not found a new NBA home, despite being the exact type of player that many teams around the NBA need. A veteran wing that can play good perimeter defense and space the floor, or at least that's the idea of Cody Martin. Last year, in 14 games with the Phoenix Suns, he did not play his best basketball and shot 11% from three, but in the games he played for Charlotte before being traded to Phoenix, he shot nearly 33% from three. So maybe that dry spell offensively has turned a few teams off from signing him. However, he does make plays on the perimeter. He is a good defender. He can create turnovers on defense. He's not a bad rebounder for his size at all, and could be quite the good pickup for an NBA team if he could just consistently shoot the three ball. I don't expect all of these guys to get signed. However, I would be shocked if at least a few of them don't. I don't know what their futures in the league hold individually. However, I do wish the best for them and hope we get to see them all back in the NBA. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon in another video. I'll see you guys then. Deuces.